Right, here we go, our round graduation technique. So start on the right side. I'll comb out a diagonal section, clip the hair away. And then as I approach this haircut, I put my body parallel to the shoulder. I'll over direct the hair forward and I'll cut in an A-line shape. Now again, this over direction has to be consistent throughout the sides. So my next diagonal section, with each progressive section, I'll elevate the hair slightly. And again, keeping my fingers, elbows, comb, all parallel. This is imperative to maintaining this shape. Right, comb the hair to natural fall, makes sense. So the next diagonal section, so through the sides, with each section, I'll elevate the hair slightly. I place my comb at the angle I intend to cut. Fingers follow my comb. Fingers, scissors, elbows, they're all parallel. This is imperative. Round graduation is quite challenging, and your body position, its effect on the overall shape that you intend to create is imperative. So again, consistent over direction forward. Always see a consistently clean, perfect, and amazing guideline. Okay, so now my sections move to the back area of the haircut. I'll start off on the right side, come out a curved section. I'll take my guideline from the longest length through the sides, and then from here I have to pivot my body and angle my fingers and comb and shears to cut in a shape that goes from longer to shorter. Now you have to remember with your intention for your graduation. If you want a heavier graduation, then begin elevating softer. If you want a more intense graduation effect, then begin elevating higher. But your graduation throughout the back must be consistent, and you have to take into calculation the protrusion of the occipital bone. A key element to nailing round graduation. When you're cutting the right side, make sure that your fingers are angled up, your elbows are angled down, your elbow is aiming towards the opposite shoulder. If you drop your elbow during this process, you'll find that you have a tendency to start cutting concave. So you'll start doing the exact opposite. So your body position and the way you control the hair as you stroke it out is imperative. So you have to have a super heightened awareness as to these key elements. Okay, so working manageable size of sections, right? So this section is enormous. So I'll break it into 2, 3, or 4 smaller portions. Again, I increase my elevation with each progressive section, making sure that my fingers and elbows are always parallel to the shape that I'm creating. Watch your stroke count, and you have to make sure that you comb the hair super clean from roots to ends and have an end result of the highest level of graduation that you intend to create with the last section. So you have to have an aim and a goal and a mindset, and then everything flows a lot smoother. And make sure your body moves around the shape that you're creating. So again, make sure that you're fluid with what you're creating, that you're moving along with the shape that you're creating. So our next diagonal section, here I'll comb the hair even higher. Make sure that you comb the hair super clean from roots to ends. Fingers, elbows, scissors, all parallel. And after I finish the first area, my body will pivot slightly to the left, as this will give me the greatest amount of control. Okay, so now for the challenging part. I have to cut the left side at the exact same elevation and angle as the right. So when you're cutting your guideline, put in that extra effort, that extra time to make sure it's perfect. Because if your guideline has a minute error in it, mathematically, every section after that, when the error occurs, that small error will increase by 100%. So a lot of times you'll find that your big errors start off as small errors. So it takes a keen awareness and a sharp eyes to cancel out or ensure that the problems don't exist while they're small in the detail, in the micro element of cutting. Okay, and as I cut the left side of the hair, I changed my body position. So here I'm standing in front of the ear. I'm between the ear and the nose, because at this position for a right hand cutter, it's easier for me to establish my body and my elbow at the parallel angle to what I'm cutting. If I were standing behind the ear or parallel to the ear, my margin of error would increase dramatically. So your body position here is key. You have to make sure that you're at the right place at the right time. So position yourself properly first and then bring the hair to you. Don't go chasing hair. Have the hair come to you. Always make sure that your guideline is super clear. If it's fuzzy, go back and fix it, or fix your elevation or over direction to the point where it's clear. Now as we move to the back side of this haircut, I'll cut it in the exact same manner as the opposite side. I'll take my guideline from the lengths through the sides, and notice how I angle my comb. So my comb establishes the angle that I'll be cutting. Then I position my elbow and fingers and scissors all parallel, and my shoulders and hips, they swoop from high to low. So I also become a graduated angle. I become an acute angle. This allows me for the, like seriously, you have to do this. Then you can actually really get a strong feel for what you're creating. Become the shape that you intend to cut. Increasing my elevation, always staying on the guideline. And as I cut the left portion of this, my elbow is high, my fingers are low, and I pivot gradually again to the opposite shoulder. I move along with this guideline, and this section is quite large, so anticipate your level of difficulty to increase when you get to the back of this technique for several reasons. One, through the sides, the head shape is more square, it's more parallel to what you're cutting. Once you get to the back, then you have to calculate and consider a lot more contours and the occipital and the shoulders. So if you find that as you reach the back, you find it more chill or easier to cut than the sides, chances are you're making a lot of mistakes, or you may be able to cut the back side more organic than the left. But myself personally, with this technique around graduation, I find the back much more challenging, especially when you're looking for that symmetry and balance. And then I'm also building a corner, and the corner comes out from each section running into each other. So when I cut the right side, my entire section, I cut it all the way through to the left side. So I'll get that corner. That corner is a very important landmark for me technically. When I find that corner appearing and I gradually chase it down and the corner becomes more reduced as I reach the occipital bone, that's geometry telling me that my shape is symmetrical. If the corner is off, then again, it's geometry telling you that your corner is whack. You need to go fix a lot of stuff. So if you find your corners are off, go back in a cross check. So the cross check is the exact opposite of round graduation. So it would basically be like, the cross check would be if you're cutting a graduated bob. So that type of sectioning. And find that error where it occurred, fix it, and then chase it back, and then jump back into the original technique that you intended. There's no such thing as a perfect haircut. It's all about problem shooting. Visual assessments. I'm looking for symmetry and balance here. So again, this section runs all the way into the opposite side. So notice the corner that I was talking about earlier. It's right there at the center of my fingers. So that it tells me that's symmetrical. And then that corner will adjust. And then you want that corner, if you're cutting balance, it'll sit parallel to the occipital bone, because that's where both sections meet geometrically. So I'll just take down the corner right there. So geometry tells me, okay, my shape's on, and I'll just continue all the way onto the other side. Just for good measure, make visual assessments, and then prepare the top. So for the top area, I'll over direct every section to the exact same point. So here I'm building weight. So again, on the left side, I'm standing in front of the nose, over directing the hair to the exact same point. And when your guideline is super thick, that's the proper elevation that you need to be cutting at. Because again, here I'm building weight, so I'm pulling everything to the heaviest weight line. So if you're not too sure, you can kind of wiggle your fingers, the elevation from a little bit higher to a little bit lower. And then you can visually see where that guideline is most evident, and that's where it should be cut. If your guideline's fuzzy, then your elevation's off. Because the shape is pre-existing. I just need to match the lengths through the top to my weight line through the sides and the back. So I'm just connecting stuff here. Okay, on the same technique, on the opposite side, so over directing the hair onto where all the heaviness, the weight line, the highest angle of elevation. So everything's to the same point. Over direction is consistent, my guideline's clean, and then from there I'll take down the hair. If I need to comb it a few more times just to find where that guideline is more evident, that's fine. Just do what you have to do. So I went in and I finished it by flat wrapping. So now I'm just going back and I'll start off on the sides. I'll go in and I'll cut it in a super clean line and make allowances for the ear. Okay, so now I'm going through the sides after I finished the hair off just by flat wrapping. So I'm just going back and again, just refining my line. Now when I go in with this detail work, I just work with the very fringe of my shears. So the very last 5 millimeters of it. Because this is all detail work. And I saw her cowlick was kind of cool, so I just let this little piece out. So I can have a kind of edgy feel to it. It's like an open plan. If I like it, I'll keep it. At the end, I can always knock it down. It's nice to have an open plan with your cuts. So again, through the left side, I'll go in, I'm cutting a super square, super clean line. And just little by little, work that line in. It's all about details. So for the finishing, we're just cleaning lines and texturizing. So just keep in mind the main principles of what you really have to be aware of to nail round graduation. Your body position, your elbow position, your intention. Remember, you're cutting a oval shape that is an acute angle. Okay, so here I'm just going back through and I'm just texturizing the shape. I'm not removing my technical shape, I'm just removing heaviness. So here I'm working in shadows, and I like to texturize the hair and to the point where I can comb it comfortably from roots to ends. Okay, refining your shape, just always use a mirror. Just refine it so you can comb it smooth, but then it also has to visually and aesthetically fall right. A lot of times technically the hair can be perfect, but visually it looks off. So you have to find that happy medium between those two important aspects of an amazing haircut. Alright, well, there we have it, our round graduated technique. Enjoy.